40,000 years ago, you had neighbors. Not metaphorical neighbors. Actual other humans. A different species of human living on the same continent, hunting the same animals, sheltering from the same Ice Age winters. They had been there for 200,000 years before you arrived. They had fire. They had tools. They buried their dead. Some evidence suggests they made music. And then, within a few thousand years of modern humans arriving in Europe, they were gone. Every single one of them. And we were the only ones left. This is the story nobody tells you in school. Not because it isn't fascinating, because the answer is uncomfortable. The Neanderthals were not the knuckle-dragging brutes you were taught about. That image, the hunched, grunting, dim-witted caveman, was invented in the 1800s by scientists who found a skeleton in a cave in Germany and assumed it was primitive because it looked different. They were wrong. Neanderthals had brains as large as ours, possibly larger. They lived in social groups, cared for their injured and elderly. We know this because we have found Neanderthal skeletons with healed serious injuries, meaning someone kept them alive while they recovered. They hunted large animals in coordinated groups. They made ochre paint. They collected eagle feathers, almost certainly for decoration. They were not primitive. They were people. So, what happened to them? For decades, the dominant theory was climate change. The Ice Age was brutal, and perhaps Neanderthals simply couldn't adapt fast enough. But the timeline doesn't hold up cleanly. Neanderthals had survived previous Ice Ages. They had adapted to extreme cold for hundreds of thousands of years. Climate alone doesn't explain why they vanished specifically in the thousands of years after modern humans arrived in their territory. The second theory was direct conflict, that we hunted them, killed them, wiped them out deliberately. This is the darkest version of the story, and the evidence for pure genocide is thin. But the evidence for conflict is not. Neanderthal remains have been found with cut marks on bones that are consistent with processing by other hominins. Whether this was warfare, opportunistic violence, or something else entirely, is still debated. But the idea that we simply coexisted peacefully and they quietly faded away doesn't hold up to scrutiny either. The most complete picture the evidence currently supports is something more complicated and in some ways more disturbing than either theory on its own. We outcompeted them. Not necessarily with weapons or direct violence, though that likely played a role. We outcompeted them cognitively, socially, and technologically. Modern humans arriving in Europe around 40 to 45,000 years ago brought with them something Neanderthals didn't seem to have at the same level: complex social networks, trade, the ability to share information and innovations across large groups of people who had never met. Neanderthal groups appear to have been small and relatively isolated. Modern humans connected. We built networks. We exchanged tools, materials, and ideas across hundreds of miles. And that connectivity created a compounding advantage that Neanderthals couldn't match regardless of individual intelligence. Think about what that means. It wasn't that any individual modern human was smarter than any individual Neanderthal. It was that we were networked, and they weren't. We could share a better spear design across a continent in a generation. They couldn't. And in an Ice Age environment, where marginal advantages in hunting efficiency meant the difference between a group surviving winter or not, that connectivity gap was lethal. But here's where it gets really interesting. And here's where the story stops being just about Neanderthals and starts being about you. We know from ancient DNA analysis, work pioneered by Nobel Prize winner Svante Pääbo and his team at the Max Planck Institute, that modern humans and Neanderthals did not just compete, they also interbred. If you are of non-African descent, between 1 and 4% of your DNA is Neanderthal. You carry them right now in every cell of your body. Some of that Neanderthal DNA codes for immune system responses that help you fight certain diseases. Some of it may influence your sleep patterns. Some of it contributes to how your skin responds to sun exposure. The people we apparently outcompeted and replaced left a permanent mark on our biology that we carry 40,000 years later. So, what does this say about us? It says we are extraordinarily good at two things that together make us the most dangerous species that has ever existed. We cooperate at massive scale with strangers we have never met, building systems and networks no other animal comes close to matching. And we compete with lethal efficiency, using those same networks to coordinate advantages that overwhelm anything that can't match our connectivity. The Neanderthals didn't disappear because they were inferior. They disappeared because they were isolated, and we were connected. Because we arrived with a social technology, large-scale cooperation and information sharing, that changed the rules of survival in a way no previous species had ever encountered. Not a better spear, a better network. And the uncomfortable part, the part that makes this story about more than just ancient history, is that this is still what we do. Every extinction we have driven since then, every population we have marginalized or destroyed, every time a connected, networked group with shared information has encountered an isolated group without it, the outcome has followed the same pattern. We didn't stop being the species that wiped out the Neanderthals. We just found new targets. The Neanderthals were real. They were people. They sat by fires and looked after their injured and possibly sang. And they are gone because 40,000 years ago, a group of networked, connected, information-sharing modern humans arrived in their territory, and, whether through direct violence or out-competition or disease, or some combination of all three, filled every ecological niche the Neanderthals had occupied until there was simply no space left for them. And the last Neanderthal, whoever they were, wherever they were, had no idea they were the last. They just knew that the winters were harder and the game was scarce and the strange other humans were everywhere. We are extraordinary, and we should probably not forget what that has cost. If this made you think differently about what we are, drop a comment below. What do you think actually happened? If this shifted something, hit like. It takes 1 second and helps more people find this. And if you want to keep going deeper into the real story of what humans are and why we do what we do, subscribe to the Caveman Brain. We'll see you there.